Farrukh. All these combined efforts, no doubt, have started bearing fruits, as Farrukh said, at the local market as well as at the international scene. Only yesterday, the FTSE, the UK-based global index provider, announced its decision to retain Pakistan in the secondary emerging markets category for the next 6 months. So that again plays an important role in bringing and attracting more foreign inflows into the country. Dr.Shamshad Akhtar, Chairperson Pakistan Stock Exchange, in her brief tenure as Finance Minister, has accomplished significant services for the cause of the economy and the capital markets. She has undoubtedly laid the foundation for further progress to continue the momentum in the economic domain. Dr. Shamshad Akhtar has been unable to be with us here in person. However, she is here to welcome the Honourable Minister at his first visit to the Stock Exchange. I will now request Chairperson Pakistan Stock Exchange, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, to say a few words in honour of the visiting Finance Minister. Dr. Shamshad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum to everybody. On behalf of the entire board, let me warmly congratulate you, Minister of Finance and Revenue. Look forward to working very closely with you, and my congratulations on your concluding the last tranche of IMF. Wish you success, and PSX is here to offer you all the support you need. Pakistan Stock Exchange, as you very well know, has a strategic role in the entire capital market ecosystem of Pakistan. The board, in its tenure, the current term of the board, which is about to end in April, has positioned PSX as a frontline regulator by strengthening its governance, regulatory framework, and leading the technical transformation to unleash the immense potential and power of this platform. This has for decades remained undertapped, I must say. So very proud of this moment that you are here and being so experienced within the financial market sphere. I singularly am counting on your helping us integrate capital market institutions, players effectively with the banking sector. I'm sure you know this all over the world. There has to be a strong interdependence between the non-bank and the banking sector for any segment of the financial market to operate properly. In context of capital market, your help is very much warranted, going beyond the steps that Farrukh has laid out quite exhaustively, which I will not repeat, but to really appeal to you that we need a very strong interdependence linkages between the banking sector and capital market to lift the capital market. It will ease the pressure, and you of all knows this deeply because you also, your Habib Bank earlier has been able to set up the different subsidiaries and entities. I don't know whether you know a bit of a history. My passion for capital markets dates back to the first ever Asian Development Bank operation. It was a 250 million policy package. The size of the package of ADB has not changed today. Any operation they do is 250 or 300 on an average, with exception of the 500 that they were contemplating for the energy sector. What did it do? It laid the foundation for what you see today. It abolished the Capital Controller's Office, laid the foundation of SECP, automated this exchange, which has now been lifted by the efforts that we are very proud of the Chinese consortium to establish and operationalize the national trading surveillance, trading and surveillance system. many subsidiaries. Foundation was laid through the ADB program and technical assistance, and there was a lot of advice given to Pakistan on insurance and pension sector reforms. Why do I bring this out? I think a lot of sacrifices have been made by our domestic shareholders and brokers. I worked endlessly with all the leading stakeholders of capital market because I was processing this operation within a short period of 3 years when Pakistan was facing balance of payment crisis. They have made a very big sacrifice because they own this whole exchange. And on my continuous pressure as a part of the conditionality of this operation, we have convinced all our brokers to focus on strengthening the governance of this exchange. And they very gracefully agreed to the conditionalities of the ADB program. I have to pay my tribute, amongst others, there are lots of them, but to RFB who negotiated this transaction with me. Until to date, his support for the capital market being one of the primary and original stakeholders, it has been unprecedented. I have to say, all this led to demutualization and corporatization of the exchange. We are now proud to have Chinese consortium, all the three top exchanges, and HPL as our equity partner. So we count on not only our domestic broker stakeholders, but also our Chinese consortium and HPL representatives who may be there as equity partners to take now this exchange to get what I would call stage 3.0 of the capital market reforms. Power of any exchange, as Farrukh has tried to also outline, lies in the diversification of capital generation to meet private sector requirements, be it IPOs, equity, and different debt structures. Finance Minister Sahab, you already know this, that one of the things that we are trying to do on the revenue front is to digitize the revenue structures. We are trying to also digitize PSX. We believe that digitization of the revenue system will have a very positive impact on the PSX too, because it will stop the hemorrhaging of this economy to undocumented sector. So unlocking the potential of the platform has to be an ongoing process. Boosting confidence will now be in your able hands because you have to help out reduce the economic fragilities, the exchange rate and interest rate swings, which is tremendous challenge for the Pakistan Stock Exchange, always in any exchange. I have to also bring to your attention, as a student of capital market, that Pakistan should be proud of that PSX has adopted the IASCO standards completely. PSX has adopted a tougher governance regime, and PSX, as was pointed out earlier, is driven tremendously by openness, transparency, high disclosure standards relative to any other standard of Pakistan, sector of Pakistan. Also, we have nurtured all the large business and clients now over the last few months to really be going after beyond the issues of the tax privileges and others to actually be focused on competing with other segments of the market. You and I jointly do know that privileges of having tax concessions are probably going to be history for the next couple of years. Besides this, I wanted to share with you that the board of Pakistan Stock Exchange, with the support of our CEO, has been able to adopt a new PSX strategy. I'm really proud that I and Farrukh have worked very closely to develop this strategy, and hopefully on another visit of yours, we will have a session with you on the components of this. Our vision and mission at the board is to strive for development of sustainable stock exchange. And last year, Pakistan Stock Exchange has joined the League of the World Federation of Exchange and engaged our stakeholders to conform to ESG standards. I know you are a great believer of it. We were able to review very closely with your team that previously the HPL efforts to meet the ESG standards. PSX board has been very strategic and has attempted to strategize and prioritize the development of the stock exchange. It has enhanced the vigilance to the regulatory platforms that we have. We are keeping an eye on our core business. PSX in the last 6 months has simplified its IPO processes and now fast-tracking its approval, as Farrukh mentioned. New initiatives are being launched to stimulate supply and demand for PSX business and products. Regulatory reforms are something that you ought to be proud of, because if you know the history of the stock exchange, you would know how critical this has been. We have been able to foster an environment where investors can operate with confidence and trust. Joint supervision and inspections of PSX with other subsidiaries of capital market are really a breakthrough, as I see. Strong vigilance of regulatory committee, which I have been heading, and enforcement measures thereof has instilled integrity and in the market practices and promoted a fair and ethical trading environment. Ease of doing business, Farrukh has touched upon, but I have to say there are still lots of efforts to be made, because I keep on hearing from brokers and also from bankers issues surrounding an investor account opening. So your efforts to help us out on that front will be valued. Also, products such as the Russian equity vehicles, we would very much welcome your talking to the bankers to really work hand in glove with the Pakistan Stock Exchange. Diversification of product is another priority area for the board. We are not only working to enhance the market's resilience and investor base, but to foster, as I said, sustainable growth in capital market ecosystem. Our Sharia scholars and industry experts have really played a prominent role. Our exchange today has half of its business in Sharia products. Recently, PSX has been allowed trading of government debt securities, and I think you need to just talk to your team in the Ministry of Finance to know what an uphill battle that was to have the legal amendments. PSX ID systems now integrate the GDS trading seamlessly within the exchange's existing framework. Recognizing the importance of the ESX factors that I talked about in ensuring long-term sustainability and value creation, we have a standing task force of the PSX, PICG, and other stakeholders that continue to play an advocacy to nurture ESG products. Our objective is to work with the SECP to create a unified framework that elevates ESG consideration and gives international markets an avenue to trade in our ESG compliant securities. PSX's inclusion in the League of Sustainable Stock Exchanges is something that makes us all proud, and you as Finance Minister can talk about it everywhere globally. It will give us visibility and commitment to sustainable practices and ethical conduct. As you know, money goes where sustainability is there. The NTS system that was talked about process, but the board, in the midst of that, played an instrumental role. It has set up a new IT and digitalization committee to broaden our digitalization footprint. This IT committee is working to institutionalize robust IT policies and governance structures. I bring these steps out to you that incrementally, every day, every month, we have been taking huge steps to take this PSX to new frontiers. Innovative digital solutions and leveraging technology all over Pakistan through the digital stacks that we had started to work and you take it forward. At the PSX platform, we'll have a very strong nexus to open up this economy more and more. To promote inclusivity and collaboration, we have established a trading platform to have a very open dialogue with our broker, the main stakeholders, the mutual funds, and other asset management companies. I want to conclude by thanking you to be there. I'm really sorry that I was not there to greet you and pay my respects in person, but I'm sure we will have more occasions. I have to say, my confidence in not only your role at the Ministry of Finance, but at the PSX to help us change the game further is very much something that I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much for gracing today's session.
Thank you, Dr. Akhtar, for presenting the PSX and talking about how it has progressed with leaps and bounds and moving into the next frontiers. I would now like to invite the Honourable Federal Minister for Finance and Revenue, Mr. MuhammadAurangzeb, to please take the podium and say a few words about his perspective on the capital market, the current economic situation, the new plan, and the prospects for the economy going forward.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chairperson Dr.Shamshad Akhtar, Mr. Yuhan, members of the PSX Board, MD PSX Farrukh H, respected industry leaders, esteemed market participants, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, thank you for the warm welcome. It's a great privilege to be here also during the week when the index has been hitting record highs. Also great news yesterday with respect to maintenance of the secondary emerging market status. I'm sure inshallah it will continue to bring in further institutional flows into the market. Now, Farrukh, as you mentioned and Chairperson mentioned, over the last few years, there's been a distinct effort made at the PSX with the help of the Chinese partners and investors, where important milestones have been achieved. You mentioned world-class trading and surveillance system, ease of doing business with respect to online account opening and KYC, and Chairperson mentioned there's more to do there, and I'm sure there is, but it's a very good start. Also, more recently, the trading of government debt securities, I think it's a real milestone. A lot of credit to Dr. Shamshad in taking the leadership on that, and indeed returning to profitability. किसी इदारे के लिए भी being profitable is what it makes it sustainable. So well done and congratulations. Now you, we, us have obviously much more to do to realize the true potential that the Chairperson has just referred to, and also Mr. Yuhan, as we discussed in Islamabad yesterday, and let me come back to that in a moment. Now we have entered 2024, alhamdulillah, on a much better and stronger note than where we were this time last year. اب اس میں GDP کے ایلیمنٹس ہیں. I think agriculture has played a very important role, registering a 5% growth there, and this on the back of bumper rice crop. Inshallah, from what I'm hearing, the wheat crop estimates also look very good, and it's going to help both on the export side and import substitution. Significant narrowing down of the current account. In fact, February was a surplus. Stable exchange rate that Dr.Shamshad also referred to. Headline inflation down to 23% from the peak of 38% back in May of last year. Now, this is on the back of the macroeconomic stability, which was ushered in when the 9-month SBA was signed by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in his previous administration. And then I give full credit to the caretaker administration and Dr. Shamshad for following up in a very disciplined manner during their tenure. And then we signed the staff level agreement a few weeks back, which was obviously important to ensure that we continue with the macroeconomic stability. And it's really with that in mind and ensuring that this stability moves towards permanence that we requested during the SLA discussions with IMF that we enter into a larger and a longer program. And it's good to see that IMF was very receptive on that request. Inshallah, we will start the discussions on the uske khadukhal hain, uske contours hain. During the spring meetings in Washington, we go there around the 14th, 15th of April. And then, of course, the rest of the discussions will come through when they are back here in Islamabad. Now, we need the EFF to execute the structural reform agenda. देखिए यहाँ जो operative word है वो है execution, and not getting into debating clubs, not getting into policy prescriptions. We have known the what and the why सालों से नहीं दहाइयों से, हम करते नहीं हैं. So the thought process is that we get into the implementation phase right away, and we have gone into the implementation phase in the last few weeks with a two-pronged strategy. उसमें एक short term to medium term है, which is closing the gaps, stemming the leakages and the losses, and the second one is phasing in the more structural reforms in the medium to long term. अब इसकी I'll just give a couple of examples of that. On the FBR front, जो stemming of the leakages है, उसका एक बड़ा specific example मैं आपको दूंगा. The track and trace system. Now we have the functionality, the implementation has been lax, and therefore operational effectiveness is just not there. And I think this is something which we are working on as we speak on making it more robust, and the numbers associated with that and other leakages are actually pretty large. Equally importantly, roughly 1.7 trillion of litigation languishing in tribunals. And in conjunction with the Law Minister and the Attorney General, we have now said to the tribunals that they need to make decisions in the next 3 months. The decision can be against the FBR, that's fine, but we need to make decisions. To get timely decision and timely execution, I always mention that, is always going to be critical. And then concurrently, we start bringing the undertaxed and untaxed sectors into the fold. And उसके साथ ही जो डॉक्टर शमशाद ने भी जिक्र किया है, the digitalization effort. जो digitalization है वो कुछ verticals में हो चुकी है in FDR, but I just gave you one example of why this has not been effective. So we have to go end to end in terms of digitalization. और उसमें जो उसका फायदा है, obviously महसूलात उससे बढ़ेंगी, obviously revenues have to go up, but bringing in transparency, and more importantly, what we don't talk about most of the times is client experience. It's superior client experience which is going to restore the trust and confidence into this institution, and also deal with some of the aspects of the social contract that is always sort of talked about. Also under the leadership of Minister Awais Lagari, similar thought process on the power side. जो theft है, उसको stem करना है, उसका जो तखमीना है तकरीबन 500 बिलियन रुपए का है, and even a fraction of that comes back in to the treasury and the coffers, every bit helps. And then of course improving the governance and then eventual privatization of the discourse. So the power minister है, उन्होंने governance में already काम शुरू कर दिया है in terms of reconstituting the boards. So the point here is that we are not waiting. We are not waiting. And all of this is very much under execution. अभी privatization की बात हुई है. So the PIA and the outsourcing of airports are making very good progress on both transactions to take these through the finishing line, inshallah, by the June-July time frame. और इसमें हम बड़े जो है whole of the government की जो बात होती है उसको operationalize करके चल रहे हैं. Because ये अलीम खान साहब ने जो deliver करना है privatization का agenda वो अकेले नहीं कर सकते. If I on the PIA side don't deliver on the Ministry of Finance side, and Khaja Asif Sahab does not deliver on the aviation side in terms of what we need to do, in terms of action tracks and ownership of those deliverables, then he cannot meet the deadlines. तो इसलिए ये board of the government की बात करना एक और चीज होती है, उसको operationalize, और इसी वजह से आप देख रहे हैं कि इन transactions में बड़ी diligently काम हो रहा है, and it's being monitored on a daily and a weekly basis in terms of meeting these timelines. And while we obviously work on building the pipeline for privatization. देखिए privatization तो एक चीज है, लेकिन I have always been saying, and I will continue to say that in my current responsibility as well, that it's the private sector that has to lead this country. Government's work is to provide policy framework, policy continuity. Government has no business in being in business. And I think the Prime Minister is also very clear, and I'm sure it's really based on this principle that we will take the whole reform agenda go forward as well. Now, it is in this context that PSX becomes a very, very important partner in this journey. Again, Chairperson mentioned that in some sense the banking industry and the capital markets are joined at the hip. But the reality is there is way too much over-dependence on bank financing. And we need both equity and debt capital markets to step up, to help in the privatization process, to step up in funding the infrastructure projects. Do we need infrastructure? Yes, we absolutely need infrastructure. Does it have to be all coming through the PSTV? The answer is no. It has to be brought in within the context of public-private partnership, and that's where the debt and the capital markets and equity capital markets come in. And also going forward, the whole SME agenda is something where we look forward to working with PSX on that front as well. Now, Farrukh, you just mentioned the journey that PSX has been on. So, from what I understand, the investor base is 300,000. It's a very narrow base, and I think when we were talking yesterday, obviously we need to aim high with everything that we have done. Why can't it be 3 million at some point in time? And uski jo analogy hai, the World Bank ki report thi, I'd say a few years back, when they clearly laid down the roadmap as to how Pakistan's economy can move from being a $300 billion economy to a $3 trillion economy by the time we get to be 100 years old in 2047. Now, उसमें काफी milestones हैं, roadmap में steps हैं जिसको हमने लेना है, लेकिन it's the same thought process in terms of aiming high. The other thing is obviously, again, I understand there are only 524 listed companies, and we clearly want to work with you to encourage further listings. I think जो अभी बात हो रही थी, आपने जो बड़ा अच्छा काम किया है from Aurangzeb Securities in terms of taking a logistics company, which is I think it's probably the first time that a logistics company has been listed, and that too it's been oversubscribed. So it's a great it's a great start in terms of diversifying the type of issuers which are coming to Pakistan Stock Exchange. To the board, I give our full commitment that SCCP and Ministry of Finance will provide full support in enhancing market efficiency, transparency, and investor protection, and many other things that we have talked about with respect to the requirements that have come from you. और जो आपने बात की है, you're not looking for subsidies, etc. And again, that is something, I have been very clear that import-led, subsidy-supported businesses will not be sustainable going forward. And I think Chairperson referred to that as well. So, in closing, on behalf of the Government of Pakistan, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the Chinese investment and partnership. I'm very clear that increased cooperation between Pakistan Stock Exchange and the Chinese exchanges will not only help us here in Pakistan in deepening and widening the capital markets base here, but also, as was mentioned, in executing CPEC Phase 2. CPEC Phase 2 is monetizing what was the infrastructure which was created part of CPEC Phase 2, in CPEC Phase 1. और उसमें एक जो बहुत कलीदी किरदार अदा होना है, वो है the transfer of some of the export-led businesses from China into the special economic zones. And through your efforts, Mr. Yu Han, you mentioned that to me yesterday as well, convincing some of the Chinese POEs to come and help us in executing Phase 2, inshallah, as we go forward. Once again, I would like to thank you for the warm welcome, and I wish you all the very best and Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words and perspective on the way forward for the capital markets, the economy, and leveraging the capital markets specifically for the SOE privatization as well as the SME strengthening. We are here to work along with you to take this dream forward and make it happen. I will now invite Mr. Yu Hang on the stage to present a memento on behalf of PSX to our distinguished guest. To join him, I will request Managing Director, Pakistan Stock Exchange, Farrukh Khan, board members of Pakistan Stock Exchange, Chair CDC, Mr. Farrukh Sabzwari, Chair NCCPL, Mr. Munir Kamal, and Mr. Bilal Zardi, who is the CEO of Pakistan Stockbrokers Association, to please join us on stage. These are all the major representatives of the capital market.
मोबाइल नीचे कर लें जरा सा नीचे कीजिएगा फ्लैग नीचे कर लें फ्लैग
Thank you, sir. It sure gives us renewed hopes and encouragement. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an honor for Pakistan Stock Exchange to host the Finance Minister, Mr. MuhammadAurangzeb, and his team on your inaugural visit to PSX. I am confident that this visit will go a long way in setting the foundation for further cooperation between the frontline regulator, the apex regulator, and the Ministry of Finance. This is bound to result in greater results for the capital market, its stakeholders, market participants, local industry, issuers, investors, and the economy in general. In the end, on behalf of the capital market stakeholders, the business leaders, the listed companies, and the PSX team, I would like to thank you again that you took your time out and joined us here today at this gong ceremony. Our friends from the media are now welcome. They're here. They would like to take some sound bites, so please spare some time for that with the media wall. Thank you very much.